Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where the topic is Unlock Business Agility with Lean Portfolio Management. My name is Doug Welsby, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Richard Evans. During today's webinar, attendees will be on mute and the line will not be open for questions. However, feel free to use the GoToWebinar question feature to submit any questions you may have. I'll address these during the webinar and will respond via email if we do not get to your specific question. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away from the webinar, no need to worry, as we'll be emailing a link to the presentation once it has been posted to our YouTube channel. I'll now turn the presentation over to Richard.
Great, thank you, Doug, and welcome everybody. This is Richard Evans talking to you today from Seattle in Washington State, USA. Today's topic, business agility combined with lean portfolio management. I'm very excited about this topic, so I'm going to try hard not to ramble and try and keep it nice and crisp and to some key points. And I say I will try my best to do that because all of us here are very passionate about this this subject. So let's have a look what we'll cover today. First of all, let's just cover what is business agility, hot topic. What does that mean? Look at the current discipline of project and portfolio management, how that ties in. What are some of the limitations there we're trying to overcome with more business agility? I want to cover just the basics of lean portfolio management. Plenty of information about this in the public domain through the SAFE websites and so on. Just cover briefly some key points there to whet your appetite if you're unfamiliar with it. And then let's talk about how to get started. There are some, there's more than one way to get going with business agility. You know, there's a structured way, which is good, but there are ways to start sneaking in elements of this ahead of time. And I want to just pick one example, which is using the weighted shortest job first, or WSJF method for prioritizing your projects or your work or your products. Just look at that as one way to sort of start getting into gear and using the language and the concepts of agility. Okay, business agility, what is this? Well, there is no hard test for what is business agility. You know, it's a mindset, it's a way of leading. It's about running your organization as a system. And I think that, you know, the big drive in so many organizations today is about flexibility, meaning the ability to respond quickly to opportunities or to changes in the environment, speed, lower cost. So in some ways, it's the old adage of doing things cheaper, faster, better. But I think this idea of flexibility and the short cycle we have now in order to adapt and respond, it's getting shorter. So this flexibility thing is big. And like I said, there's no hard test for this. So it's really all about what your self-awareness is as an organization and what your intent is to improve and about the work you do to improve. So if you've got an action plan and you're starting to work on it and you have a coalition, hey, congratulations, you're already in the business agile arena. The thing I want to look at next is how part of this drive to agility is about the fact that traditional methods, and we have lots of them, even if we don't realize it, we have lots of methods for running a business, from accounting to project management to strategy and goal setting. A lot of these things are showing their age now because of this pace of change and the need to respond faster than before. But at the end of the day, this may feel like revolution. It's really evolution. We're building on things and adapting things that have been around for a long time. And let's take one of the things, which is project and portfolio management. This has served us well over the years, some of these disciplines and tools and methods. What are some of the things, though, where the cracks are showing and we've got some areas for improvement? One is the customer centricity challenge. The business agile and safe ways of doing things are very geared to putting the customer at the center of things. And if you think about a project-based organization, often we congratulate ourselves when we're doing projects on time and on budget. And those are all fine metrics, but they're still not really touching on, are we shifting the needle in terms of customer success and customer satisfaction? Another challenge with traditional modes is the business value challenge, I call it. And that is the fact that if you organize around the idea of projects, you often are missing the fact that a project is really a means to an end, and the end is typically a product or a service. And so we should be focusing on not necessarily the project, which is the means to that end, but what is the impact of our work on the product or the service. And the way we're translating that today is, when we think about analytics and dashboards and things, the products and services should be front and center for those things. Third challenge today is the resource capacity challenge and arguably the financial capacity challenge. What I mean by this is, if you are organized around projects and you are in this business of having to assemble a project team to deliver a project and then to break it down and then move those people onto other projects, you are constantly fighting this almost impossible challenge of being able to clarify, do I have enough people? What is my capacity? And it becomes this really arduous thing to try and stay on top of. And it's not necessarily a limitation in data and technology. This is more of a limitation of people's ability to get this together with the discipline and process required. And then finally, the people challenge. The one thing about being project oriented is, if you are disassembling project teams regularly, you don't give those people necessarily the chance to really learn about a customer in depth, or a business process in depth, or a solution area in depth. So it can provide limitations, create limitations on people's career paths and ability to really learn about business and become specialists in certain areas and broaden their skill set. Okay, so those are some of the challenges. What are some of the tools we can use for business agility? Well, one of the things we can look at to help us with this idea of business agility is the SAFE framework, Scaled Agile framework, and specifically the part of SAFE called Lean Portfolio Management. There are 7 competencies in SAFE. Lean Portfolio Management is the one that's perhaps the most top-down, executive-leaning piece, which is all about making good strategy and investment decisions, running a portfolio or portfolios, and making decisions on those portfolios. And those portfolios could be business projects or IT projects. They could be products. They could be services portfolios. There's no limit here on the industry or the functional area for this. And there are three parts to Lean Portfolio Management, which we'll get into. Why am I suggesting Lean Portfolio Management is a useful tool to look at? fundamentally, it's intended to develop a culture of innovation, flexibility, and speed. So there's a good starting point. But perhaps more importantly, there are a growing number of case studies, many of them. Go to scaledagile.com that show you some of the metrics being shifted that are very relevant to business agility, productivity, speed to market, employee engagement, and product quality. So these things should all tell us they might be onto something with this lean portfolio management thing. Let's look at, I'll do this briefly as I can, some of the core pieces that constitute lean portfolio management, some of the big topics. And again, there is training behind this to get into more depth. There's also lots of information online with the SAFE site as well. But I want to touch on some of the things that really make a difference when you're driving to deliver better business performance through agility. One thing is, one shift from traditional ways of managing is we're moving from projects to products and services, as I said before. Part of that shift is this idea of value streams, and we are focused on business outcomes rather than tasks. And the magic triangle of the LPM function, and by the function I mean all the different people around the enterprise who have some kind of role to play, those three segments are strategy and investment funding. That's how we set objectives and key results and strategies for the organization and decide who gets how much money. Agile portfolio operations, that's your day-to-day, month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter running of the portfolio as a PMO might do today. And we have finally lean governance, which is how we make decisions periodically to make adjustments. That's where the agility and flexibility comes in. With traditional organizational structures, we often find ourselves organized in silos. The illustration here is an IT department, but this goes for all departments typically, well beyond IT. So you have people in hardware, software, testing, quality, etc. And you're trying to move work from one group to the other. That by itself is going to create slowdowns. So right there, you're already not set up for success. The thinking with LPM is trying to organize people around value by using the value stream concept. So let's look at that. So with value streams, you think about the customer as you organize your people. So you think about the core business processes or value streams in your organization that begin with an early step and ultimately deliver value to both the customer and to your organization. The illustration here on the slide is for a bank where you have a big value stream called customer loans. There's lots of steps in it. And underlying that value stream, you also have what's called a development value stream. And those are all the people supporting not only the current state of that value stream, but also are working on its future state. Of course, this goes on in project-based organizations. We just call the development value streams the projects. The big difference here is we are creating this idea of a a virtual team or a network or a value stream of people and systems and products and technologies that all go together end to end across the world often to form a single value stream. And the thing to bear in mind here is organizing by value stream does not mean blowing up your HR structures necessarily. It's completely fine for an organization to have a hierarchy of who reports to whom, a classic pyramid hierarchy, as well as having what we call a network, which means the sort of day-to-day network of people working with each other. You don't necessarily work with your boss in your hierarchy as much as you work with other people in your organization. So this is not necessarily a dramatic change, because what we're doing is recognizing that there are these informal networks of things. You put the customer at the center, enables you to design value streams for the organization, and there are within SAFe and LPM there are methods and tools for how to do this successfully. Another big shift with LPM thinking for business agility is moving from annual planning to rolling wave planning. And in fact, LPM has very specific recommendations on cadence for this. And I've tried them, and I'm very pleased with how this works. So one of the recommendations is we should all be doing 6 monthly cycles. 6 monthly cycles. Some people even go more aggressive than that. But a good starting point is be able to shift your strategy setting and your budgeting to 6 monthly rather than annual cycle. And then the other part of the cadence recommended is to have quarterly events called PI planning, program increment planning. But the way to think about quarterly events is that's an opportunity to get this this value stream behavior and mindset working by getting people together who otherwise might not be collaborating together, breaking down those silos, and using that quarterly event, even if it's just for a couple of days. Some people do this for a week, and in that period of time each quarter, it's a time to review what we're working on, do planning between teams, really get that collaboration and that interdependency planning and management going, and also identify future work we should be thinking of. Now that step, that what I mentioned, the 6 monthly cycle and then the quarterly cycle, these are things that you could actually implement anytime, really. You're not dependent on going full on with SAFe to be able to make those adjustments. Another big shift is how we do financials. Project-based organizations, we do project-based accounting, and that gets really hard because we have sometimes many projects vying for budget, and it's very hard to make good decisions around a big portfolio of projects requiring funding. It gets simpler and more efficient with a value stream approach. In a value stream approach, instead of, for example, having to worry about funding 315 projects, instead you're worrying about funding, let's say, 5 value streams in the organization. You identify those value streams, they have their own roadmap, their own mission, they're multidisciplinary. Again, these are often virtual teams rather than hierarchical teams. You can get to the stage where you're actually funding those value streams. Again, not on day one perhaps, but this is an important objective to strive for, to get that agility, customer centricity, value for money. Another part of LPM thinking is how we break up and segment our budget. And so one aspect I've just mentioned is consider funding and budgeting at the value stream level. Another tool in the LPM bag is, and there are a few, by the way, this is just one. One of them is this horizon-based approach. What this is very helpful for, and again, I've used this and it really is effective. It's not, by the way, a new idea. This is, I think, developed by McKinsey some years ago, and it's been refined ever since. The idea is basically when you're thinking about your budget, let's say you're sitting down to do your annual or 6-monthly budget, not only can you focus on funding value streams or big product areas if you're thinking about products instead of value streams, but you can also set targets for your budget based on this idea of horizons. What that means is products and services that are live today and which are generating revenue or generating value of some other kind, that's your Horizon 1 stuff. They should get the majority of the budget, but not all of it. So you set a limit. You set, let's say, for example, 65% of your budget goes on those things. You want to set aside 15%, let's say, for Horizon 3. Horizon 3 are those project types or work types or product ideas that are still in their early stages, but which represent value to the organization, maybe in a year or 5 years' time. Very important to segment the budget that way, so that you don't throw all of your money at your immediate needs and end up not being a successful growth company for the future. Another big topic here is participatory budgeting. I won't go into all the details on this. Again, there's more information online about this. What I like about participatory budgeting compared to other types of budgeting, typical budgeting today in many organizations means a few mysterious senior people sitting in a room somewhere away from everyone else and arguing about things in a spreadsheet. What participatory budgeting does is it checks a couple of boxes. One is it's very inclusive, so you allow different teams to interact, to sort of debate about ideas that might need funding. So it's a more inclusive process, which is great for transparency. But from a business point of view, it delivers more business value because part of this process is that you have some of these diverse teams. In fact, all of the diverse teams you include, it could be 100 people. You have them all present alternative solutions for the budget. So what that means is you end up with perhaps 5 or 6 presentations at the end of your budgeting day that give you the best options to pick from. And for many of you who have been involved in innovation management processes, you know that the bigger the sample of good ideas to begin with, the better quality the final choice or final outcome is once you've made those choices. Another topic here is how to manage demand and capacity. I mentioned earlier that one of the challenges with traditional portfolio management is taking on too much work, not being able to understand who's doing what. LPM is all about visualizing work in progress and managing a system Kanban type system where ideas go gradually through the process, brand new idea, then you analyze it, you evaluate it, eventually you add it to the backlog. And one of the things, I should mention One Plan, our organization, we not only do consulting and training in this space, we have products in this space as well. And one of the big parts about our agility products is being able to visualize all of your proposed work and all of your in-flight work at the same time. Phase gate approvals versus incremental development. This is at the core of all agile thinking, which is if you set yourself up with multiple stage gates when developing something, those stage gates might slow you down. Worse still, it means you can't go back. What that means is you're crossing your fingers and hoping for a great outcome at the end of everything. Incremental development, we take away some of the stage gates. Tools and technology, dashboards really help here because you can create visibility so people can see what's going on without having to necessarily sit in a review meeting and waste time doing that. But the key point is agile ways of doing things allow you to avoid carrying all the risk till the end of the project. Phase gate development means you're sort of waiting right till the end before you assemble all the parts and hope everything works out. Business cases, traditional ways of running a business mean big lengthy business cases, often take you weeks or months to develop, lots and lots of pages, lots of ROI and IIR data covering 3 to 5 year span. Reality is lots of people don't end up measuring that at the end of 3 to 5 years. Everybody's changed jobs and we forget about that. And the second thing is 3 to 5 years is a long time in modern business. So lean business cases force you, put pressure on you to create leading indicators of value well ahead of actually even finalizing the product or the project. Leadership and mindset. What is mindset? Set of attitudes held by someone. This is going to be critical in the path to business agility. There's again a list of different things that make up the mindset, the culture of lean portfolio management and SAFe. I think you can transfer or translate some of this into your business agility plans. Take an economic view. Base your milestones on objective evaluation of things, what you can see and touch, not what someone documents. Visualize and limit work in progress, decentralized decision making. And the nice thing about the this picture on the left is, look at this, you've got leadership at the bottom supporting everything as opposed to on the top. So the role of leadership is to underpin some of these cultural improvements. And the thing that really matters the most is the value you're delivering for customers. Agility extends into how you deal with your suppliers and contractors. So there's also Agile Contracting. Again, another shift that's going on today. On the far left of this picture, you've got typical fixed price contracts where the supplier's carrying a lot of the risk. On the other end, you've got pure time and materials type contracts where risk is mostly shifted to the customer. Agile contracting means finding that space in the middle where there's shared risk and shared benefit. And so our contracting and finance processes need to adjust as well. So moving forward with all this, we have, as One Plan, a simple checklist. This picture I'm showing here is really your checklist for business agility to make sure we haven't missed anything. So very simple. Step one on the left, identify the opportunities for improved flexibility, speed, innovation, and cost efficiency. Be quite specific about the business processes or things or functions or products that you want to target. We recommend training and coaching change agents. So train them in some of these tools like lean portfolio management, so they got all the latest methods and knowledge and case studies so that they can then lead from within. Technology is super powerful and helpful. One Plan as an organization, we also have technology for business agility, and that enables you to have all of these visualizations and connect up your processes, avoid people having to drown in spreadsheets, which not only waste a lot of time, but prevent you from getting the big picture. Another step is measuring success and adjusting. Very, very important to start off any kind of agility initiative with metrics and keep coming back to them. Sounds obvious, amazing how many people avoid that step. And then you have to bake in continuous improvement. This is not a one and done thing. So some of those things I mentioned earlier, strategy and investment funding, portfolio operations, how you govern and make decisions on an ongoing basis or inspect and adapt, those need to be baked in. So there's a checklist, and this checklist works for a variety of situations actually. So this would work if you're doing a portfolio management initiative to change or update your portfolio management. This equally works if you have a massive company-wide transformation initiative. Transformation initiatives should be made up of work streams or epics or projects, however you call them. And so this whole business of identifying those, measuring those, using technology, change agents all still works as a way to do big programs effectively. And also works if you've got some sort of specific digital transformation initiative going on, or some other kind of business change. For example, you're bringing in a new way of doing supply chain management, or maybe a new bit of technology for financial management. Checklist still works. So how to get started and make these changes. The classic and still my recommended approach to this is just really all about starting with learning and education. So a recommended way to start is pick the right people. They become your change agents, few business leaders, few middle managers who are good at influencing. Train them on the basics. Lean portfolio management is a great place to start. Spend a few hours on learning that in depth, and then decide whether to commit or not. You might say, no, this isn't going to work. If you like the ideas of that, next step is to create a roadmap for the enterprise. Rome wasn't built in a day. You need a roadmap. These change agents that have just been trained can help do that. Step two is then say, okay, well, let's take the next step. Let's turn this into a real program, a real change initiative. So like any other change initiative, you've got people, process, and tools elements. How are we going to run this thing as a well-oiled machine? I'm going to need technology for visibility. I'm going to need processes for tracking and implementing change. And thirdly, we must ensure that we're measuring, that we're adjusting, and that we have real plans for continuous improvement. And there are good guidelines in LPM and SAFE for setting up centers of excellence and communities of practice to ensure that this is part of the culture and not just a one-off thing. However, if you're not quite ready to do all of that just yet, and I know plenty of businesses that are heading in the direction I just said, but it takes time sometimes. Got to get people aligned, got to build a coalition. there are still some things you can do. So if you think about, if you're in the world of portfolio management, you've got those 3 areas we mentioned before. Maybe you, in your role, you can't control strategy and investment funding. Maybe you can't control lean governance. Maybe you can control some elements of agile portfolio operations, i.e. what's happening week to week, month to month. I mentioned before that that thing I showed you of having the program increment quarterly cadence of getting teams together to do cross-functional planning, breaking down the silos, learning, inspecting, adapting. You can do that without that being tremendously disruptive. It's a big value add activity for anybody who wants to set that cadence of quarterly collaboration. And here's another example. I said I'd mention WSGIF. One Plan, we got tools for doing prioritization, sequencing, and connecting them up to everything else. We don't like people drowning in spreadsheets. It's not efficient. But if you are currently living in spreadsheets to do your things like prioritizing your work, prioritizing your portfolios, this is an example of how you can use WSGIF today. I did this just recently for a transformation initiative where we had, I think it was 24 big ideas for epics to help transform the organization. We wanted to get the sequencing right, wanted to prioritize them. The PMO in that organization is already familiar with doing this kind of thing. All we did was give it an LPM flavor. So let me explain the WSGIF way of thinking is that it's effectively the formula is business value divided by job size equals your WSGIF score. You break down business value into 3 categories: user business value, time criticality, and the extent to which this opportunity or idea is either reducing risk to the organization or enabling some other activities as well. So you pick up points for those risk or enablement or interdependency type situations. The scoring you're using is the Fibonacci scale. There's good reasons for that. Makes it nice and simple, but actually more accurate than most other scoring systems. So you've only got 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and 20 to pick from. Nice and easy, but very powerful and effective. And why would you use WSGIF as a way to give you guidance on what to prioritize? You use WSGIF when what is so important is getting things done, moving things through the system. So as you can see in this example of 2 different ideas being suggested, we're trying to figure out what to do first. These 2 ideas scored ultimately equally in terms of business value of cost of delay. However, the job size, the estimated effort to do that, also using that Fibonacci scale, was slightly different. All things being equal, if business value is the same, it's going to be your job size or duration or cost that's going to make the difference. It's all about speed. So in this case, the one with the smaller job size is recommended as the one you do first. This is better than a prioritization mentality because prioritizing is usually about I'm above the line, below the line. I'm going to get this done. I'm not going to get this done. Lean portfolio is all about deciding the appropriate sequencing. Everything can live in the backlog. So you're not excluding anything. You're just figuring out the right order to do stuff. This is something you can do right now. The details behind this are all available online. So that is, I think I did get a bit too passionate and excited and rambled on a little more than I hoped for, but I hope I covered all the salient points for you. One Plan, you go to our site, oneplan.ai. We have more information on our training, our consulting, and our products that support all of the things I've been talking about today. But thank you very much.